Thanks for checking out my micro drawings channel. Here I'm going to be drawing Calvin and Hobbes in a swimming pool. There's the quarter and Q-tip for reference. And it took me a little bit to figure out where I was going to start with this one. I ended up starting with Calvin's nose. Hobbes's nose. But boy, it took a while to think about it. I don't know what the struggle was. So there it is. Finally, Hobbes's nose. I'm using a Copic multiliner 0.03 black pen. And for the coloring later, I'll use a Copic sketch marker. The markers have two different tips. They have a broad chisel tip, and then the fine point. I use the fine point. Right now, what I'm working on there on Hobbes are his goggles, or his mask, rather. And I'm using his nose as reference. From there, I work down to his mouth and his chin. And then here I'm adding the mask itself. And then you can see one of his little eyeballs, and the other is right up close to the side of the mask. And then from there, I am working up his head, adding his ear. Of course, he's got stripes on the top of his head, so working on that. He'll have stripes on his body, white chest on him. There's the snorkel, just hanging off to the side. I don't know if anybody remembers the comic strip that this is from, but Calvin and Hobbes are very excited to get their swimming gear on and their mask on because they're going to see a lot of fish and seashells, and then they end up, they're just in the swimming pool. So didn't quite turn out what they thought it would be. So there's Hobbes's stripes on his back, and of course he's sitting in the pool. So right there is the water line. And then here I'm deciding where I'm going to go next. He had his chin and kind of a little shadow under his chin, so that was the line I added there. And there I'm starting to add the pool to the picture. It's one of those inflatable pools with, it looks like there's, two rings on it. And there's the water line. There I'm just bringing the pool in. And I'm setting it up to add Calvin to the picture. Again, thanks for checking this out. Please subscribe and share with other people that might be interested. I'd appreciate it. That way you can see the other videos that I upload. It's not just Calvin and Hobbes that I end up drawing. So there I'm working on Calvin's face and his mask. And you just see one of his eyeballs. And there I'll work up to his trademark spiky hair. Just working around. And there we've got the mask strap. So I'm bringing that from the mask to his ear. Gives me that point of reference of where that ear is going to go. And there, bringing the back of his neck in. And he's, a little shorter than Hobbes, so the water line's there on him. Those couple lines were like his sideburns area. And there I'm working on the rest of the swimming pool. And just the reflection and water lines in there. There I'm just extending his hair a little bit over his mask. And there I'm bringing the pool around. And the second layer of the pool. And the pool's just sitting out in the yard, so I'm adding a little grass along the lower edge of the pool. So just a few blades of grass there. And here's a Q-tip for reference. This ended up being a pretty small picture. You can see that Q-tip covers up both of them and the swimming pool almost. And at this point, I'm grabbing the markers that I'm going to end up using on the picture. First, I'll bring the yellow there and put that on Kelvin's hair. Again, I use the fine tip end of the markers and I work right up to that black line. Thankfully, these markers don't run or make the black line run. I think they're alcohol based, so they can blend together. But again, interacting with that black multi-liner, they don't make it bleed or smudge or smear or anything. And there's some blue for the water. And next here, I'll get the orange for Hobbes. So that goes above his mask on his head. And then working down the side of his head a little bit. And then his back. Again, I'm barely touching it because otherwise it'll bleed in, even though it's these alcohol-based markers. And then here I turned it over because I went out of the lines a little bit. I've got a colorless blender that I'm using there. It basically dissolves the ink from the marker. So I'd gone out a little bit back by Hobbes's ear. So with that, I dissolved it enough. Yeah, it kind of acts like an eraser. And then that evaporates. But basically, I dissolved that extra orange down. And then there's the skin tone for Kelvin. That's a cotton pearl. And at this point, deciding which color I should grab next. End up putting in the like the shadow area of the mask. I think I used a number 3 cool gray. Masks and goggles usually have that shaded tint to them, or shaded area at least, from those covering up part of the face. So that's what that was that I added. And then here I'm bringing the next color around. I'll put a quarter for size reference first so you can see how small this is. So again, that little swimming pool is about from George Washington's nose to the back of his head. And here's some green. I'm adding the grass below the swimming pool. And then I'll just have the swimming pool to finish up. Just using one color on the grass here. I had added those little blades of grass earlier with the Copic multi-liner black pen, so set it up that just a little touch of green there would give the illusion of the yard. And then next I decided to go with pink for the swimming pool. I thought that would provide enough contrast with everything else. So again, I'm working up from the bottom up to that line. I'll end up having to rotate it here to finish it off up against the grass. There we go. Again, just lightly touching, kind of accounting for the ink to spread a little bit up to the line, so I can leave it just a little bit short and it'll spread right to it. So there's the completed picture. Here's Q-tip again for reference, and a quarter. And I figured I'd throw a pencil in there too. You can see that silver part holding the eraser on pretty much covers it up. And then the last piece here, it's the 1st of July, so I'm just adding the date in there. Again, thanks for checking this out, especially if you hung around till the end here. Have a great July, And thanks for watching.